A few years ago, I made a video called Comparing Black People to Non-Black People. This is going to be another exploration of that topic as it pertains to some comments one of my male listeners made. I'm also going to make a few other points as well. His first comment reads, "This article said loud and clear other race value character and possible socioeconomic influence. Black women value superficial stuff such as looks and swag, then look for substance." I already dealt with this subject in a previous video, so I don't need to go back over everything I said. However, I will do a quick recap. Like I said, eventually, attraction has to be addressed. So it doesn't matter whether you find men you're attracted to first and then look for substance, or you look for substance and then eliminate the guys you're not attracted to. It's just two different ways of getting to the same goal, which is finding a man. Next comment, please. Educated men are able to get good-looking white women or Asian or Latina. Okay, never said they couldn't. Next comment. Those women were raised to look for men with character and ambition and social status by their mother, and black women don't groom black girl to be wife material. Oh, so many things here. First of all, most white, Asian, and Latina women are not interested in black men to begin with. Furthermore, when white, Asian, and Latino parents groom their daughters for marriage, most of them don't do it with the intention that their daughter will marry a black man. So you're praising these other women for qualities that most likely were not intended for you. It's just like swirling black women who praise white men in general, not just their white husbands, but they praise white men in general for their accomplishments. Most white men are not interested in black women, so that means that the things that they do and the things they have done were for white women and not me. So I'm not going to praise them for the things they did that were never intended for me. Sure, if a black woman marries a white man, then yes, he goes to work and brings home a paycheck for her, but white men in general don't, so I'm not going to praise them for it. Next comment. Yes, white women have similar behavior. They date bad boy, but they don't get pregnant with bad boy or thug seed. Black women represent 6% of global population, but have 36% of abortion. All right, this comment, same thing. I've heard other guys compare the black abortion rate to the white abortion rate. Again, most white women deal with white men, so when you praise white women for having lower abortion rates, what you're doing is praising them for keeping white men's babies. That has absolutely nothing to do with you, and it is not an indicator of what they would do if they were pregnant by a black man. A white woman having a white man's baby is very different than a white woman having a black man's baby. So looking at stats of what white women do when they're pregnant with white men's babies has nothing to do with you. I actually heard a black guy on YouTube, I won't say his name because I consider him to be an online friend, but anyway, he said that one thing that makes him hesitant to date black women is because they are more likely to abort his baby. First of all, a woman who is a wife is least likely to have an abortion. It's not married women who are having all these abortions. Of course, there are exceptions, but abortions are overwhelmingly had by single women. So, if you marry the chick first, you're not likely to have a problem. If your wife wants to abort your baby, you're probably an a-hole. Second thing, when a woman has an abortion, they record the race of the woman, not the baby. What would happen if white women had to specify the race of the baby they were aborting, or if they somehow did a test to determine the race of the baby? I wonder if the rate for white women aborting non-white babies is higher. Who knows? But definitely something to think about. All right, now let's just talk about abortion in general. As I've said before, I am pro-abortion. If a woman doesn't want to be a mother, I don't want her to be because she's probably going to do a crap job at it. Unwanted kids don't have good parents. Poorly raised kids are least likely to grow up to be productive citizens. These are the ones who grow up to rape, kill, and steal. This guy goes on to make the comment, I hope you are aware over 70% have baby mama are black. I don't know whether this guy is typing on a really small keyboard or whether English is his second language, but these typos are crazy. Anyway, I assume what he's saying is that he hopes I'm aware that 70% of black women are baby mamas or something like that. Okay, you can't be against abortion and then at the same time complain about out-of-wedlock births. You may want to make the argument that they shouldn't get pregnant in the first place, which I agree with. However, I look at things slightly differently. Sex is a basic human function that is not just for making babies. People also do it for pleasure and to bond with someone. Nature tied baby making to something pleasurable for a reason. If we had to do something unpleasant to make babies, there would be a whole lot less babies, maybe even none. Nature did not intend for pregnancy to be prevented. I know this because there is no off switch. A woman can't say, I don't want to get pregnant right now, so I'm not going to produce any eggs this month. And a man can't say, I'm going to stop producing sperm until I'm ready to be a father. Since sex is a basic human function that has other uses than baby making, there needs to be a safety net for people who just wanted to have sex and not make a baby. One of those safety nets is birth control, but sometimes it fails or people slip up. So there has to be backups for the birth control like abortion or adoption. We can preach abstinence and birth control all day, but there will always be unwanted pregnancies, or I'll say unplanned. Just like there will always be car accidents and house fires. All right, his next comment reads, you deflect my question regarding black women, the entitlement and expectation for educated men to come back up and clean up their mess after they've been dogged out and left with bunch kids by thuggish boyfriend. All right, and you're deflecting the fact that this is not a black woman phenomenon. Ask the white MGTOWs. This is a female phenomenon, and we have already established, or at least I have established, that women are selfish. So of course they're going to go for whatever benefits them, even if they don't deserve it. They don't care what's fair and reasonable. They want what they want, and if you're foolish enough to give it to them, that's on you. That's why you just have to say no and keep it pushing. All this indignation, how dare she ask me for that? You don't have the right. She's going to do that. That's what women do. You're never going to stop women for asking for things they don't deserve. Women's idea of fair is different from yours. Fair is whatever you're willing to give me. If I ask you for something and you give it to me, that's fair. I didn't forcibly take it from you, and I didn't trick you out of it. You gave it to me. So that's fair. Let me give you a little quick, easy example. Let's say this guy just bought a submarine sandwich. So he cuts it in half and gets ready to eat it, and just as he's about to take a bite, a woman walks up and says, hey, can I have half of that? Okay, this woman does not know this man, and there's no way that he owes her half of that sandwich. But he thinks she's cute, and he thinks that maybe if he gives her half the sandwich, she might go out on a date with him and maybe even have sex with him. So he gives her half of the sandwich. Then he goes to take a bite of the half he still has, and she says, oh, you know what? Can I have half of that half? And he's like, well, I just gave you half already. And she says, I know, but I'm really hungry. I'm sorry. Can I just have half of that? All right, the guy, ignoring the fact that the first half didn't get him a date, he somehow thinks that giving her a little bit more will get him a date. So he gives her half of the half. Now he's down to a fourth of a sandwich. And of course, when he goes to take a bite of that, she asks for half of the fourth. This isn't an exact example, but it's more of an analogy just to help you see how women kind of think. Whatever you give me is fair. They'll keep asking until you say no. It'll never be enough until you say no. And the more you say yes, the less they're attracted to you. I know it's crazy, right? Because women are thinking, if you can't stand up to me, how are you going to stand up to other men? That makes a woman feel like you can't keep her safe. So all you men out there who are so upset because black women come back and try to get something they don't deserve, that's what women do. So just say no and keep it moving. You're never going to stop women from wanting more than their share. Next point, women from other countries value character and capacity to provide. And they know their role and embrace their femininity and don't have the penis envy and in competition with men. Okay, I realize you were talking about foreign women, but I want to make a point because I hear guys make comparisons between American black women and American women of other races when it comes to displaying femininity. You can make that comparison if you want, but I think you should be careful when making certain comparisons. I would never make a comparison like black men prove their manhood by being hard and sleeping with a bunch of women, while white men prove their manhood by getting good jobs and providing for their families. A lot of times, black men come from environments where if you're soft, other men will bully you. It's better to fight another man who challenges you and get your ass kicked rather than back down. Not as many white men live in an environment like that, but those who do often display the same hardness. Some of them have to be even harder because black men don't take white men seriously as far as being able to fight. They don't even take light-skinned men seriously a lot of times. So just like the environment that some black men grow up in isn't conducive to them being gentlemen, it's also not conducive to women being feminine. When you make certain comparisons, what you're really doing is comparing the black community to the white community. Not all comparisons are unfair, but we have to remember that the white community has not faced the same challenges that the black community has. So of course there are some things that they're going to do better in. My generation, which is Generation X, and those who were born after us, were born into a community that was already off track. It's not our fault things got the way they are. As far as bringing up women in other countries, again, it can't be compared. Many of them live in countries that still favor families and don't require both the husband and the wife to work to keep the bills paid. Many countries in Europe have standard paid maternity leave, and some even have paternity leave. In the United States, you can get 12 weeks of maternity leave through FMLA, which means your boss has to hold your job for you, but they don't have to pay you. And paternity leave? What's that? I realize that even on Christmas, there are some businesses that have to be open, such as gas stations, hospitals, even pharmacies. But I drove down a major street in my city on Christmas, and the McDonald's were open, Sonic was open. I mean, really, who eats McDonald's on Christmas? Who eats Sonic on Christmas? I can understand maybe a restaurant like Golden Corral or Ryan. I don't know what buffet places you have in your city, but basically I'm talking about a buffet place. Places that serve a sit-down meal that you would eat on Christmas, I can kind of understand why they would be open, even though I don't think they should be open either. The CEOs of these companies are at home with their families, but they're causing some of their employees not to be at home with theirs. I know a lot of these places will ask for volunteers to work on a holiday, and then if they don't have volunteers, they'll start drafting people. But a person shouldn't have to neglect their family just to get a few extra bucks on their paycheck. Our society does not favor families, and that's partly because people who don't have families whine and complain and saying, well, I don't have kids, I shouldn't have to pay for other people's kids. Having kids was your choice. I shouldn't have to pick up the slack because you decided you wanted a family. And I can totally understand why somebody who doesn't have kids would say that. I'm not saying it's unfair or anything, but anyway. Praising foreign women for being more family-oriented when they grow up in an environment that is family-oriented is disingenuous, and it proves nothing. We live here, they live there. The way American women act and the way foreign women act are both products of the environment in which they live. So your real problem should be with American society. And lastly, the swirling sisterhood has no problem dating an average white man underneath their level, but have a long laundry list of requirement for good black men. I haven't seen any evidence for anything like that. Are you saying that black women require black men to have a college degree and make a certain amount of money, but will accept a white guy who works as a cashier at Target? I haven't seen any evidence for that. I'm not saying it's true or not true, I'm just saying I don't see it. One thing I do want to talk about, though, is when black guys say that black women are nicer when they're with non-black men. First, I want to say that a lot of these women that you use as an example probably grew up around white people. If you don't grow up in a place where the hard exterior is needed, you won't have it. Like, for example, Franchesca Ramsey. With an accent like that, she probably grew up around white people. Here's where your argument breaks down. You have not demonstrated that she had an attitude with her black boyfriends, but not with her white ones. You're looking at Franchesca Ramsey treating her white husband or boyfriend like a king, and then you look at a different black woman who's with a black man and see her cussing him out, and then say, look, see, y'all don't act the same with black men and white men. That's not the same woman. That doesn't count. You would have to show the same black woman treating a black man worse than a white man in order to make your point, and that's really hard to do. Proving that point, I meant. Franchesca Ramsey would probably treat a black man the same way, providing that the black guy acted like the men she's used to. If he doesn't act like the men she's used to, then she may have a different attitude with him. It all depends on the guy. But let's go with your argument. Black women are demons with black men and angels with white men. I think what you're saying is actually adapting to environment. If you go to a place where the hard exterior is not needed, women who have good sense will lose it. And that includes when they go to work. A lot of black comedians have made jokes about how black people act different at work.
Since you've been gone, since you've been gone. Oh, the black people trying to act like they don't know that song. No, y'all ass be at work. Since you've been gone. Now they be playing it at my job.
There are some black women who don't tone down the hard exterior no matter where they are, and somehow these women always seem to get hired at government offices. And these are the black women that we all can't stand. You get up to the window and she's got an attitude just for no reason at all. I'm actually working on a video about that, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, the reverse applies as well. A white woman who's dating or is married to a black man and they live in an environment around black people who aren't that used to being around white people, she's probably going to toughen up. And I'm not saying she's going to toughen up with her man, but when she interacts with black people in the community, especially women, she's probably going to toughen up. That's because a lot of times black people associate whiteness or light-skinnedness with weakness. So anyone who is not black, who is light-skinned, or anyone who quote-unquote talks white will be tested, and if you fail, you'll be targeted, or you won't be taken seriously. When I go to my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee, my accent automatically switches to match who I'm talking to. It's something I do subconsciously. I don't even think about it. Like right now, I'm not putting on an accent. This is how I naturally talk, but I also talk another way naturally. If I wanted to know where the mall was, I would say, do you know where the mall is? But if I'm talking to somebody who doesn't talk like that, hey, you know where the mall is? And I do that totally subconsciously. It's like a bilingual person switching between two different languages. And even though it's subconscious, I know why I do it. I do it to keep them from testing me and not taking me seriously. When people are testing you, they'll say all sorts of crazy crap to you because they think you're not going to do anything. Or should I say they want to see if you're going to do anything. And I don't necessarily mean fight. I mean just stand up for yourself. Like just giving them a simple, I don't know who you think you're talking to. But I don't want to have to go through all that, so I just switch my accent. If you come in there all, hi, how are you? Some of those black people will cure you of that real quick. All right, that concludes this video. Leave your comments.